These kids are horrible. Horrible. They don't care about learning. The parents don't hold them accountable. They don't make their kids hold themselves accountable. The admin does not hold the parents of the children accountable. They say they hold the kids accountable, but they go to the office and they come back and they do the same thing. It's awful.
Everyone, don't waste your time and let's go start this video and watch this video.
Parents, I am begging you to listen to me. I'm a teacher and there is a pattern I have noticed throughout my teaching career that it's not talked about enough. As a teacher, there is one thing that signals to me whether or not your child is going to be a behavior problem in my class for the entire year. It's not race, it's not gender, it's not religion, it's not their home life, whether or not they're in foster care, if they come from a split home, it's none of those things. All children at some point in time make dumb decisions. That's just part of life and part of growing up. But if every single time your child is getting in trouble, you are immediately jumping to their defense without question, verbally attacking the teacher, the principal, whoever, and refusing to hold them accountable for any reason whatsoever, you are setting your child up for a lifetime of disappointment, failure, and a whole lot of confusion. And of course, this type of behavior makes it really difficult on your child's teacher and everybody else in her classroom, but that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to tell you is that you are hurting your child by not making them take any responsibility, holding them accountable for nothing. If that goal of creating a good person is not mutual between the teacher and the parent of the child, there's only so much teachers can do. Learning how to be a good person, it has to happen at home.
Teachers across America are noticing something different about their classrooms, and many of them are saying the same thing about Gen Alpha. Teachers say students today learn differently, communicate differently, and interact with technology in ways previous generations never did. But here's the controversial question. Are Gen Alpha students actually becoming harder to teach, or are schools simply struggling to adapt to a completely different generation? Walk into an American classroom today, and you'll see a generation that has grown up surrounded by screens. Many Gen Alpha children have had access to smartphones, tablets, streaming platforms, and online content from a very young age. That doesn't automatically mean technology is bad. In fact, digital tools can make learning faster and more interactive. But some teachers say constant digital stimulation has changed what students expect from entertainment and education. Instead of spending a long time focused on one activity, some students may expect information to come quickly and constantly. For teachers, keeping an entire classroom engaged can become a serious challenge. One of the biggest discussions is attention span. Teachers often describe classrooms where students struggle to remain focused for long periods without some kind of interaction or stimulation. But there's an important question here. Is technology actually causing shorter attention spans? Or are children simply growing up in a world that requires a different approach to learning? Not every Gen Alpha student has the same habits, and plenty of young people are highly focused, creative, and academically successful. Still, educators say the difference is noticeable enough that schools are having to rethink traditional teaching methods.
I have never had classes behave this poorly. Even kinder students behave better than this. So, next thing, do you know how hard it is to get kicked out of my class? Like, unbelievably difficult. But second period, we're taking attendance, everyone's standing on their numbers, and he kicks a soccer ball as hard as he can and hits someone in the back. And I'm like, dude, what was that about? He goes, oh, sorry, sir, I'm sorry. I'm like, all right, like, everyone gets one mistake, right? Then we're doing laps on the track, we're playing soccer, we're playing football. Should be an easy day. And I watch him pick up a football, look directly at three girls that are walking along the track. He picks it up and just hucks it at them. And it happens to hit a girl straight in the back of the head. And I'm like, dude, like, let's go, you're done. Like, so I radio in the walkie-talkie, can I have a student removed, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what, mister, I didn't do it. I said, buddy, I just watched you do it. He goes, no, that was someone else. I said, oh, okay, who was it? Oh, I don't know. I said, but it was you. I watched you do it. He goes, no, it wasn't me, mister. It wasn't me. I'm like, man, you're going to the office. And luckily, the supervisor came out. He goes, dude, you're so fun. And he was like cussing me out. I'm like, all right, man, have a good one. And that same period, the boys are getting dressed in the locker room. They're like slamming lockers and getting super hectic. So I'm like monitoring, making sure they like stop doing that, like trying to get them out of the locker room. Like, let's go. And the start of third period comes, and one of the kids is like, hey, mister, there's like a clog in the toilet. I'm like, of course, perfect. So I look in the bathroom. It wasn't a clog. Someone grabbed a cone, stuffed it in the toilet, and then used the bathroom through the traffic cone. And I'm like, dude, what are we doing? And it's just like, this is why I don't like to teach middle school.
There is something going on with these children of today that their behavior is so bad. We are in this classroom fighting behavior problems 100% of our time. Like most days, I just dread coming to work because I'm about to be a babysitter for the day. Like at my last school, a student full-blown hit me. And the very next day, I got an email from my principal talking about what I could have done better. And not only that, I was forced to call the parents and apologize for the child's behavior. And then I just altogether stopped calling parents because whenever I would call parents, they would say, oh, just move their seat. All of these good teachers are leaving the profession because they're tired of coming to work and being a child wrangler. They're tired of coming to work and they're tired of being a babysitter, a therapist, and no learning is being done. But then when it's time for these reports and time for these numbers to pop up, they're being looked at as fraudulent because there's no growth in the classroom. Literally, my mental health is so bad when I come to work. It's me up at 4 a.m. in the morning, tossing and turning, not able to detach from work because I'm so miserable going in because I have to deal with these issues that I'm getting no support on.
You're not gonna believe what this student did to me today at school. This actually happened during passing period. I had just graded my students at the door and I was speaking to another student of mine about some missing assignments that she had. She was standing right next to me. Again, we were standing still at the door. The student was in the hallway and I was standing right by my door. When I see another student pass by me right in front of me and he goes into my class, mind you, he is not a student of mine, so I immediately asked him to leave my class and to please go to his correct class. He knew exactly where he needed to be and he made the choice to come into my classroom. As he is finally exiting, he decides to stop right in front of me where I'm standing at the door. And you guys already know I'm only 3 feet 3 inches tall. Now, these are students who are about to go into high school. This student is very, very tall and he gave me no personal space. And what I mean by that was that he intentionally stood right in front of me and we were probably about 2 inches away from him rubbing his private parts in my face. And he did this with a smirk on his face. So I know for a fact that he did it intentionally. This was no accident. He had plenty of space to walk on the side of the door. But instead, he chose to stand right in front of me, look down on me, and almost rubbed his parts on me. I did not even put my hand in front of him or anything. I instead went back like this because I didn't want to be accused of me touching his parts. So instead, I went like this. And the other student who was speaking to me actually told him, dude, that's gross, because she saw what happened. She was my witness. Anyways, I said a lot of things to him and I asked him to please step away from me and to not ever come back into my classroom. He, of course, denied it and went finally into his classroom. I immediately called the teacher that I knew had him and I gathered the information to call home. And this is why I'm making the video. It is so important that parents do their part. I want to tell you as a teacher, I will never take time out of my day to call and lie about your child, ever. And you best believe most teachers will never do that. Okay? So if I'm taking the time out of my day to call you, it's because this actually happened.
Another issue teachers frequently discuss is classroom behaviour. Some educators say communication between students and teachers has changed. Students may be more comfortable questioning authority, expressing opinions, or communicating through digital platforms. Some see that as a positive development because students are becoming more confident and willing to speak up. Others argue that schools are seeing declining levels of patience, respect, and basic classroom discipline. And once again, the reality probably isn't as simple as blaming an entire generation. Family life, social media, school policies, technology, and the environment children grow up in can all influence behaviour. But there's another side of this story that sometimes gets overlooked: the teachers. Educators aren't only teaching lessons anymore, they're dealing with technology, changing curriculum requirements, parent communication, classroom management, paperwork, and increasingly complex student needs. When teachers feel overwhelmed, even normal classroom challenges can become much harder to manage. That's why some educators believe the solution isn't simply telling Gen Alpha to behave differently. They believe schools need to change alongside the students. Gen Alpha isn't the first generation to be criticized by older generations, and they certainly won't be the last. Every generation grows up differently because the world around them changes. The real challenge is figuring out which changes are positive, which ones create problems, and how schools can adapt without simply blaming students. So what do you think? Are Gen Alpha students really different from previous generations, or are teachers simply dealing with a completely different world? Share your opinion in the comments and keep the conversation respectful.
And this video is made for entertainment purpose only. Like and follow and subscribe and comment this video. An interesting part in the video, please comment and like, follow please. Thank you.